Welcome this evening with Imtiaz Mir. Today is my guest, correspondent to the Daily Telegraph, Jotam Confino. I'm welcome you in my talk show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are the international journalist, analyst on the Middle East. I want your fresh perspective on this. After the killing of Yahya Sinwar, what would you say about this? War is closer to end?
I would say that there's definitely an opportunity to wrap up the war now, because if you look at the goals that Israel set out in the beginning of the war, it was to destroy Hamas and to free the hostages. But you cannot free the hostages without ending the war and getting a ceasefire deal with Hamas. And now that you've killed the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, and now that Israel has destroyed basically most of Hamas's military, there's definitely a chance now for Israel to strike a deal with Hamas and to end the war.
Jotam, Mr. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that war is not over. It means after the death affect this broader Israel-Hamas conflict?
So as long as Israel continues to be in a war with Hamas, the other surrounding wars that Israel is currently engaged in will continue. Mainly the one against Hezbollah in Lebanon, because Hezbollah has said that they will continue to attack Israel until the war between Israel and Hamas is over. So Netanyahu now has to make a decision, and so does Hamas, of course. But he has to make a decision. Will he continue to go after each and every member of Hamas inside Gaza until there's nobody left and possibly sacrifice the hostages in doing so? Or will he try and strike a deal with Hamas that could also end some of the other conflicts around him? If you ask most Israelis, the majority of Israelis would like to see the war end, to get the hostages out, and to spare some of the soldiers who are being killed on a daily basis in these wars.
Jotam, you are on the ground. You are covering this war since a long time. I personally know after this, Gaza's political landscape to shift without Yahya Sinwar's influence. What would you say?
I would say there's an internal power struggle inside Hamas right now, because Yahya Sinwar was an all-powerful figure, and a lot of people looked up to him, obviously, inside of Hamas. So to fill his shoes is going to be difficult. The only one who's as senior as Yahya Sinwar was, who's still alive, is Khaled Mashal. He used to be the leader of Hamas from 1996 to 2017, but I'm not sure that he wants the job, because whoever takes over from Yahya Sinwar will also likely be assassinated at some point. So there's an internal power struggle going on inside Hamas. And in Israel, people are calling for elections, but Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't seem to want to give his power up. In fact, he's doing everything he can to cling to power.
Jotam, Israeli society and Israeli internal politics, is divided on this and a hostages deal, and day by day, Prime Minister Netanyahu's, his credibility and popularity is day by day is declining?
In the beginning of the war, absolutely. He dropped significantly in the polls. People were outraged with him, first of all, because he's responsible for failing to prevent October the 7th from happening. But a year later, Netanyahu is slowly climbing up in the polls. I don't think that he could manage to win the next election, because he's been unpopular for many years, not just because of October the 7th, but long before that. I would say that generally, the Israeli public is slowly but surely moving more and more towards the right wing. They have done so for years, but Netanyahu is a very divisive figure. And I don't think that he's going to be able to survive the next round of election, which are planned for 2026.
Jotam, could this spark larger regional conflict involving neighboring countries like Lebanon and Iran?
I would say we're already in a regional war. It depends on how you define it. But Israel is currently invading Lebanon with boots on the ground. They're conducting airstrikes all across Lebanon every single day, including in Beirut, in the capital. And Iran has fired ballistic missiles at Israel twice. And Israel has allegedly assassinated Hamas's leader in Tehran, and they're preparing to launch a huge, significant attack on Iran any day now. So I think we can call this a regional war. The question is how many countries are going to end up being dragged into this, because Egypt, Jordan, many of those countries that are right next to Israel could also potentially end up being dragged into it in a worst case scenario. And I think that unless there's a solution between Israel and Hamas, every day that passes by, we're closer and closer to a lot of countries being dragged into this conflict.
There is a intelligence leak. Israel is going to plan to retaliate strike against Iran, but this intelligence has been leaked. And today, Iran has lodged a complaint with UNO. There are threats against Iran. Israel is going to target Iran, atomic sites.
So it's a good question. I believe that Netanyahu wants to strike the nuclear sites. He has wanted to do that for well over 10 years. And now is a very good time for him to do it. But Joe Biden, the US president, has said publicly that he does not support such an attack right now. But my guess is that because we're going to have an election in the US in 2 weeks from now, there could be a new US president. There could be a Donald Trump in office in a couple of months. And if Donald Trump wins the election, I believe that Netanyahu will do everything he can to persuade Donald Trump to support Israel in attacking the nuclear sites in Iran, because Israel really needs the support of the US in such an attack. Currently, Joe Biden is not ready to help Netanyahu, but I think that he's slowly but surely preparing for this to be the next step in the coming months.
Thank you very much for your valuable insights on this, this conflict. A lot of people, they want to peace and they want to de-escalate, but this conflict is deepening day by day. Thank you very much. Stay safe and take care until next show.